As I continue to edit the dinosaur, we are making sure that our body and movement is fluid. Okay, we start off with the hips and make sure that they're planted correctly. As the feet lift off, our hips, they go up, or as the feet plant down onto the ground, our root motion, or our root, or the hips, they land correctly. So we want like that bobbing motion, and that's where we go into our graph editor. Very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. That is very important. I'm so serious. Yes, any animator in the professional industry, trust me. Actually, you should do that because I've done it a few times. I've emailed a few guys from industry like Magic, the guys behind Transformers and Avengers and all that type of stuff. Make sure to email these guys and get some tips. But one thing they told me was the graph editor is a very important thing. Looking at tutorials and all this different stuff growing up, graph editor is very important. Okay, make sure you understand how it works. Make sure you understand, especially in Maya, understand how to move it, how the X, Y, and Z, rotate X, Y, Z, translate X, Y, Z work, and you can easily tell because it's color coded, but it's easy to work with. Make sure to understand a graph editor, curve editor, whatever its name, whatever it is. But you're working with curves, you're working with spline animation, you're working with linear, things like that. You're working with all that type of animation. Make sure to understand it because one, it's in all the different animation programs, 2D, 3D, you name it. It's in Maya, 3ds Max, Blender, you name it. It's going to be in all those different programs. Make sure you understand how it works and how to use it. Okay? Because as you see, as my animation is flowing like that, it's because I've edited the the uh, the curves. Make sure you know what the translate x. Make sure to know that the translate x value, it's going left and right or whatnot on your grid. Translate y in Maya by default. Translate y is going up and down. In Blender, I believe it's z, the z axis. In Maya, that's going on a different um axis. In Maya, equivalent to Blender, the z axis is the y axis basically. But so for here, I'm just editing the curves to make sure that the animation upon the hips and the feet are fluid. Okay, make sure to know that the fluidity or whatnot, the spline, you would think of it as a hill, or linear, you would think of it as a street, a floor level, because a street is flat. Linear is flat. Okay, um, spline is like a hill; it goes up and down. That's what I want. That's what I want in my animation. And you can tell where I break the tangents. I want to move that tangent to where I want it to be. Because like when that hill breaks at that tangent, it goes flat sometimes. constantly just working around with the curve editor. Um, oh gosh, just notice how I just closely look at my curves. Like they're in like this hilly fashion, 1 through 28 or 1 through 29, whatever it is. As I work with it, I'm just constantly working with the graph editor and just making sure that the animation is fluid. How it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Just make sure that from 1 to 28 or wherever you have it, the animation at, just make sure that the animation is it bounces back. Basically, what I mean by that is when the animation starts at 1 and it ends at 29 per se, um, 29 is the exact same key as 1. Just make sure you have that because it would look ugly. But when you try to trick it, when say if the animation is actually 1 to 30, but you want it to be 1 to 29 because that keyframe, or the key at 30, it's a little bit off. Or as you notice, if you play it, of course, 1 to 30, it will look off when it replays because that one key, 30 and 1, it's basically saying I want to repeat. The timeline is basically saying I want to repeat 30 and 1. So bring 30 back to 29. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of I kind of probably explained that kind of bad, but I hope you understand that. It's all about just understanding how the animation works. And if you do, say if you exported the animation out from 1 to 30, it's gonna look off because keyframe 30 and 1 are the exact same keys. But if you want to add some more fluidity or make it look more, I guess you say realistic, bring that keyframe from 30 to 29. That's what we're doing in this example, in this dinosaur animation. All right, so pretty much the part of this tutorial, I'm just editing the keys, editing the curves. I would say if you want to start off with animation and you're doing more advanced, so like the walk cycle and all that, just go ahead and do the walk cycle. Don't go to the advanced stuff. Like trust me, just go ahead and animate it and perfect it later. Okay, make sure you got the body mechanics done, like body mechanics being jump, walk, run, and it looks decent. And then go, the last thing to do would be to edit how it looks, basically perfecting it. Okay, so here I go straight into it because I guess you could say I'm more experienced. So I just go into it, and as you do the walk cycle, and then you go straight into the curve editor or just start perfecting it. Basically, you start altering values of the graph editor or the numbers within the channel box, things like that. Just make sure you have you're good. Just make sure you're good to go. And in here, as you saw, I'm just editing the timeline. Within the timeline, you just right click and tell the keys on the timeline to tell them that they are spline or linear or whatnot. And of course, it will affect the graph editor. Okay. So I'm just going back and forth to make sure the animation looks decent. Going, it's not really a good way to go back and forth with the graph editor and the feed, and I'm not even done with the full animation. The entire animation is not even done yet, and I'm already in the graph editor. Um, it's optional. Obviously, you can do it. I would suggest to just finish the entire animation and then go in and start editing values and make it and perfecting it basically.